Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It is Monday, June 26, 2023, and you're listening to episode 166 of the Can I Say Something podcast. I'm your host and a recluse with a juicy caboose, Damian. Joining me today is...
Derek McDuff.
On today's show, in honor of nothing in particular, we'll be counting down our top 5 favorite characters that shaped us. But before that, we'll be discussing some literary and movie giants who passed away recently, before getting into some of what we've been watching, including Marvel's newest TV show, Secret Invasion, Max, the one to watch for HBO's prestige finance show Industry, Extraction 2, and much, much more. Right into the show. Can I say something at podcast@gmail.com, at Bicycle on Twitter, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, rate and review it on Apple Podcasts. Tell a friend, family member, or stranger. What's up, man? How you doing?
Having a nice, relaxed day doing a podcast.
Yes. Always a good day. Podcast day is always a good day. Let's see. So yeah, we got a lot on the docket today. This is like going back to last year when I was watching like a movie a day and I had like 7 things to bring on every podcast. So this is it's going to be a long one. But let's get started. So yeah, last week or maybe a couple weeks ago, Cormac McCarthy passed away. He was, so we can get his age, 89. He was 89 years old. Lived out the last few years of his life in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I've read most of his stuff over the past few years. Obviously got into his stuff based on the movie adaptation of No Country for Old Men. So I checked that out. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I read The Road, which is another one that was based off of one of his recent works. And just like a lot of people, I think when All the Pretty Horses was made into a movie in 2001 with Penelope Cruz, I believe, and Matt Damon were in that. That's when a lot of people started jumping on the bandwagon and going back and reading his older stuff from the 70s and 80s, like Blood Meridian and Suttree and Child of God and all of his earlier works. So he is one of my favorite, he was my favorite living American author. But I loved his writing style, loved his prose. I loved how descriptive and poetic he described all the environments and everything. I think he's one of the few authors I've read that would not only, describe like how the character was feeling in that moment or what they were thinking, but also the smells and the sounds and the things you don't usually read in a book about, how hot the desert was or how cold it was at night, or, just these, you have so many senses, and a lot of writers would just use, how did it feel? How did it sound? Or how did it like make them feel emotionally when... And I think a lot of you get invested into a book or a world based on more stuff than that. Like, cause you a lot of times I'll read a book and be like, oh, I wonder how space smells, or like they're out in like a space station. I wonder how that smells, or how cold it is, or stuff like that. And so he would actually get into that stuff of like, you could smell the coyote trails. You could smell the, how a dead body smells, and how somebody felt outside when it was like 100 degrees out, and just very, very, very immersive storyteller. So one of the greats, unfortunately passed away the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Iconic writer, a lot of, like you said, incredible films based on his novels. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's a real shame. Big
loss there. Another big loss in another sort of literary guy, John Romita Sr. A lot of people that grew up in the 70s and 80s, I think they were talking with us on the iFanboy podcast about how older, if you're in your late 30s, early 40s or older, your image of Spider-Man was John Romita. That's the image that would be conjured in your head of his drawing style. I believe he was one of the first generations to come after Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. So, he drew Spider-Man, a lot of the Marvel characters for a very long time, and did a lot of iconic panels and covers. The one where Spider-Man's walking away in an alleyway, and he's got his suit in the trash can. That iconic cover. I believe he did that one.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah. Really big influence in the comic book world.
Yeah. No, it's like you said, he's iconic. He really helped. Going back all the way till. Since before Marvel was Marvel, before Marvel was even Atlas, when it was still Timely Comics. He was working with them, so real legend.
Yeah, big legend. Yep. And then last one was Treat Williams, which I'm not so familiar with him as the other guys, but let me just look up his resume real quick.
I can tell you what I know him from, and that is I was a huge fan of The Phantom as a kid.
Oh, yeah?
And he's... and I still think it's a great movie. And he's the bad guy in The Phantom with Billy Zane. And he's just absolutely hamming it up and having a great time. And there's a scene where he just yells, he's like, "Inconceivable!" or he's yelling, "Impossible!" And he just like blows up like the power of the skull gets him. And he's so good in it.
Yeah, he was in, let's see, at least 3 The Substitute movies. Substitute 2, School's Out. Substitute 3, Winner Takes All. Let me see. Walter Shaw was talking about him on Twitter the other day. Oh yeah, he was in Once Upon a Time in America. Great movie. Let's see what else I would have heard of. I think one of the early ones, he was in like Hair, 1941, Marathon Man, a lot of early movies from there. So yeah, great actor. Great actor. Passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then just one trailer we got this week, which, it's one of those movies that I was like, I didn't know was coming. Wasn't on our top 5 or top 10 most anticipated anything, geek or otherwise, was Dumb Money. It's a movie about the GameStop stonks. The stonks go to the moon, baby. It's so stupid. But what's even dumber is like not just like the story of it or it's getting told, but like the amount of people in this. You got like Sebastian Stan, Shailene Woodley, Pete Davidson. It's like, what the fuck? Why are there so many people in this stupid fucking movie?
Because what are you talking about? It's by one of the Coen brothers. It's Ethan Coen is doing it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I guess.
Driveway. You talk about Driveway Dolls or
no? Dumb Money. Dumb Money.
Dumb Money. Oh, sorry. Never mind. Okay. I saw 2 trailers. They were both. I got them confused.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Dumb Money.
I mean, it looks good. It looks funny.
Yeah, it does look funny. It's just like, what the fuck? Why did like A-list actors sign up for this? I mean, it must have been like one of those COVID things where like nobody was making anything, and they're just like, oh, let's do some work. Let's get some work done here. Let me see. Paul, look at this cast list. Paul Dano, first of all, coming off of an amazing Oscar nominated turn in The Fabelmans. Now he's going to be one of the main guys in this. Pete Davidson, Vincent D'Onofrio, America Ferrera, Nick Offerman, Anthony Ramos, Sebastian Stan, Shailene Woodley, Seth Rogen, Dane DeHaan, Mahala Harold, who was in, I'll talk about her later in Industry. She was also in Bodies last year. And Talia Ryder, who was in, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. Just a stacked cast for a very dumb movie. It's just crazy to me. And the director is somebody, I heard the name and I was like, oh, I know that name. Craig Gillespie is directing this. You've probably heard his name too, right?
Yeah, he's done like some movies that I really like and some movies that I really do not like. He
did Fright Night in 2011. I heard the remake is pretty good.
It's very good, yeah.
The Finest Hours, I, Tonya, and Cruella in 2021. So I watched I, Tonya. I like that a lot. Yeah. So if this is going to be sort of like that, of like a, what do you call it? A take on this that's going to be sort of a takedown, or not a takedown, kind
of farcical. Yeah,
a farcical.
Yeah, and
yes,
he
thank
also
you.
Did Lars and the Real Girl. I just want to shout out. I love Lars and the Real Girl.
Yeah, one of the few Rykos movies I have yet to see. So that should be interesting. So yeah, let's do what we've been watching. Do want to make sure to go back and forth this time, but one thing, one thing we can start with is something you just watched right before we hopped on the mics here was Black Mirror season 6, back after 4-year absence. I think we've talked before about, you've seen some of them, you've seen some of the big ones, but you haven't seen the whole series, correct?
Yeah, I just kind of usually will. When a new season comes out, I might watch an episode or 2, or if I'm feeling it, watch an episode. Usually, like you said, the big ones, because it's a lot to like watch the whole thing because they are so depressing. Yeah. A lot of the times, and you don't want to do a ton of them in a row, and so be like, okay, cool, that one about the Star Trek one, that was great, and then I just won't end up watching anything else. And yeah, I've watched 2 of these. Actually, watched both of them, today, so that's the first time I've done that with a Black Mirror. But yeah.
Nice. So what did you think of them?
So the ones I watched are Joan is Awful, which I really liked. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Just a really interesting meta commentary on Black Mirror and Netflix series itself, and it's just, kind of about how there's layers and layers and layers, and it just keeps going, and how, it's like, oh yeah, you're watching, and I love that line where they, in spoilers, when they, say that, oh yeah, we tried the positive one, the positive Joan is or whatever is awesome, but nobody liked it, and that's the point of Black Mirror, is it's showing you, hey, these are like, it's a mirror to, you're watching the TV Black Mirror, that's the date,
yes,
and so it's like, oh yeah, we're showing you like the worst things about humanity, the worst things about yourself, and this is like taking that to the next literal extreme. So I really dug it. It felt like absolute nightmare fuel. I also like the implication that on every level down, Joan just gets worse and worse and worse, and it just gets magnified every next iteration is slightly worse. So the Joan that we see is probably a lot worse than the real Joan. And she's not like that bad. She does some shady stuff, but she's still relatable. So the real Joan is probably like somebody did a couple things that were a little, wrong, and then they got maybe she got a text from her ex and then sent him a text back or something like that, and got coffee or something, but then it just becomes more and more until it's just such a meta commentary on itself, looping around and around, that I really loved. And then the other one I just watched right before we recorded is Beyond the Sea. I'm a really big fan of Aaron Paul, Josh Hartnett, and Rooney Mara. So that's why I skipped to this episode, and I didn't like this one as much. This one was just kind of it felt like the reason Black Mirror was off the air for 4 years, and the creator has kind of gone in to say, it's like, yeah, our own real world is basically a episode of Black Mirror, and we need a break from all this, but it's now that the pandemic is kind of started to die down. The vaccine's been out for a while now. There's certain reality TV show hosts that are no longer in power. The president of the United States, it feels there's still the world's still terrifying and stuff, but it's a little bit less okay, we can go back to some fiction now. And this still though was pretty bleak, incredibly bleak, and unrelenting in its shittiness, and I just kind of was. It was a little too much.
For me. Yeah. It was. I like this one just because of the Aaron Paul. I'm a sucker for body swapping things, and I think Aaron Paul really nailed Josh Hartnett's suave, debonair, crooner type guy. I love seeing an actor that's usually not that take on somebody else's persona like that. So it's very cool. I like that.
It was a. It's basically 2001: A Space Odyssey meets Face Off.
Yes, exactly. That's a great analogy. So I watched all of them. I love Loch Henry. I've been, true crime has been a thing for a long time, and I think it's gotten to a place where it's really not great in terms of helping the people you're supposed to be telling their story of. So I think that was a really great takedown. Not only this is this one, and I wrote about these two, Joan is Awful and Loch Henry as a duo, because I think there's a lot of similar themes running through them. I think they're both about telling people's stories and putting people on pedestals, and the exploitation of people's pain. I think there's a lot of crossover there between the two of them. I really like Mahala Harold. She again, I'll talk about her later, but she's really great in this. Samuel Blenkin, I've never heard of him before, but he was very good in this. But yeah, just overall, like Loch Henry, just in terms of the irony, I feel like Black Mirror has that moniker of being the 21st century's Twilight Zone, and I feel like this is the closest one to that, of having an episode where you have characters have events happen to them that are steeped in deep irony because of what they're doing. They're like, okay, let's tell this person's story, and then not to spoil anything, but there's some things that happen in it that make it so, okay, this person got their comeuppance. Yeah, I would definitely recommend checking that out if you're somebody that's like, you understand, you looking at true crime through the lens of this is just stuff that we're making right now and consuming right now, but not understanding that there is a human element at the center of it. So definitely recommend that one. For all those reasons. So the general consensus of the show this season, I've heard, is like a B- to a C+. It's got 5 episodes. Last season there was 3. 2 were pretty good. The third one, Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2, was not great. I checked it out too. It was not great. A lot of the criticism of this season of the show has been like, oh, it's not Black Mirror. It's not sci-fi. It's like, well, it doesn't have to be. A lot of the seasons before this weren't completely tech based. So it's more like social media and more like trying to get away with a murder on one of them. Maisie Day is about a amoral paparazzi photographer played by Zazie Beetz. And it definitely takes more of I don't want to ruin it, but it takes like a fantasy turn, so a horror fantasy turn near the end. I did like some of that, but then Demon 79 is just a straight up horror movie. That's all it is. It's just take place in 1979. And it's interesting that the entirety of the season, you mentioned this at the beginning, how Charlie Brooker doesn't want to take on like modern day tech anymore, or modern day like social problems. So it's definitely evident in the last 3 episodes. Beyond the Sea, Maisie Day, and Demon 79 take place either in like 2008, 1969, or 1979. So I think that's an interesting way of sort of getting around the fact that you really can't. I don't want to say parody, but like find the irony, or like to have a what do you call it? A searing, not parody, but like, what's the word? A searing like takedown of social media and technology today, because there's just so much of it, and people are so. Why do you think it is? I mean, I probably think it's probably because people are so accepting of it. If you do something that is, too critical of it, people are just gonna turn away from it because they're so used to it.
Well, I mean, I felt like the Joan is Awful one was a pretty searing takedown of Netflix, honestly, and just Netflix and the algorithms and AIs that seem to govern content creation, as well as being a commentary on itself. So I don't know. I felt like maybe he's just he's diverting less from, like, maybe he's just like, I've already talked at length about these issues, so I'm going to pivot to something else. And something that they said on the Filmcast, I think, is like, there's plenty of, like, when Black Mirror started, it was really the only game where they were commenting on these issues, and now there's a million things that are doing it, including just like random TikToks that you see. So he's maybe pivoting to say something more unique. Yes,
that could be. So let's get to something else you watched. You watched Extraction 2, The Continuing Adventures of John Extraction. What'd you think of this?
This movie, so I just kind of threw it on to have something to watch with my brother, because we were at my parents' house and we had nothing to do. We were just staying up late, wanted to watch a dumb action movie, and we were watching it. It starts out kind of just like, oh yeah, whatever. And we both kind of had watched the first Extraction when it came out in April of 2020, and we're like, yeah, we get people watch it because there's nothing to watch. Why is this? So it was the #1 movie on Netflix history, but that's because people had nothing to do.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, well, I guess they made it for that reason. And we watched it, and it starts off fine, and then all of a sudden, about half an hour in, there's the first actual extraction starts happening. You're like, oh, this is a pretty good action scene. So it's like a long wonder. I think they did this in the first Extraction.
Yeah.
Oh, it's still going, and now they're outside. Okay, well, how did they switch that camera angle? That's impossible. I mean, I get they have hidden cuts, but how did they even do that? Yeah. And then you're like, how is this? And then you're like, wow, that was crazy. It's wrapping up now. And then, like, just kidding, there's a train and a helicopter and a machine gun. You're like, and it's 21 minutes long, and I will say it is maybe the greatest action sequence I've ever seen in a movie. It floored me. It is absolutely phenomenal. Though I would say the whole movie is full of great action scenes. I would put it on par with something like The Raid, where the story and the characters and all that is nothing to write home about, but holy shit, do these guys know what they're doing. And I am all for all these action stunt choreographer guys, them just being like, hey, here's $100 million, go make a really great action movie. That's how we got the John Wick films, and that's how we got the Extraction movies, because I believe it's I want to say Sam Hargrave is the guy who did this. Yeah, Sam Hargrave did this, and he's a guy who was worked with Chris Hemsworth and the Russos, who produced it on as the action stunt choreographer on a lot of the MCU Avengers movies. So it was just cool. Give these creative action guys who have these big awesome ideas a budget and a great star, and let them rip.
Yeah, very cool. So yeah, I might check that out eventually. If I'm ever sick in bed, I'm like, all right, I might as well watch these two films. So
I mean, the first one is honestly, the first one's fine.
Yeah.
It's a big jump in quality from the first one, I would say. The second one is like, so it's like the difference between like Mad Max and Mad Max, like whatever the Road Warrior. Yeah, the second one's called the Road Warrior.
Yes.
It's about that kind of jump.
Gotcha. Okay, very cool. So yeah, I also watched a big budget action movie from this year, or action adventure fantasy. For the first time, I checked out Avatar 1 and Avatar 2. Very interesting watching these two back to back, because, like you said, you could definitely see the jump in quality from the first one to the second one. I think James Cameron needs to just not take 14 years between each story. I think it was not worth the wait.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't have to wait.
Unfortunately, that we just heard, I don't know if you heard about the delays, but Avatar 5 is going to come out in the 2030s.
Yeah, and that's just ridiculous. Like, guy, you gotta get these out faster. I mean, I understand they make $2 billion every time, but Jesus Christ, it's a very, you've seen these two, correct?
Yeah.
So watching them back to back was interesting. Just comparing the tech, but also comparing the story. It's literally like the same story from the first one, the same antagonist. So that's probably like what he wanted to do, was talk about how there's always going to be this overarching, there's always going to be like an oppressor and oppressee. And a lot of times the oppressor is going to be the same person. And I understand that, but man, it's like, just in terms of telling a story about the world and about the people, it's getting to the point where it's like Star Wars, where you have this massive galaxy. You could tell a bunch of different stories about a bunch of different people, but you've chosen to just tell a story about like the same 9 people. And I get that you're just trying to make it personal and make it intimate, and that's fine, but if you're telling you've created this entire world and you're just telling a story about like 1/2 of it or 1/3 of it, it's like telling the story of the world, of Earth, and just being like, yeah, America and South America, and then that's it. It's like there's so much more you could be telling.
Well, that's why I like the second one a lot better, is because it is much less Jake Sully's story. Like, Jake Sully is clearly the main white character. He's basically a white savior trope of the first one. Excuse me. But the second one, and this is almost a criticism I have, where I'm like, let me ask you, Damian, who is the main character of the second Avatar movie?
No idea.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Well, it's a hindrance, but I also like that it's not Jake Sully's story anymore. It is a story of Pandora. He is expanding the world, because it's not like, oh, here we're in this forest. It's like, oh, what's going off over here, beyond the sea, as we would say with Josh Hartnett. I liked the expansion of the world building in the second one a lot, and I also like that James Cameron hired actual writers, so you didn't get lines in the second one like they're pissing on us and calling it rain, which is one of the worst lines ever written by humans or AI. And yeah, Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver wrote the second one, and I think that's another huge jump in quality. It's not like one of my favorite movies, Avatar 2, but I like it a lot better than.
Yeah. Another thing is the MacGuffin in any movie is not the important part. I get that, but you're also saying like the first one had unobtainium, this one has like whale piss or something. It's
the brain juice. It's the juice. You suck out the juice of the brain.
Okay, well, it didn't need to be yellow because it looked like piss.
You needed to pay attention, Damian. They were stabbing him in the brain and being like,
okay. All right, that's good. But like, what are they doing with it? What do they need it for? Is something I could have
to make you
what?
They told you that. Damian, did you this is why you can't be playing video games and listening to podcasts while you're also watching a movie.
What did they need it for, Derek? What did they need it for?
It's very stupid, the reason. Okay. Do you want me to tell you the very dumb reason? It stops human aging.
Okay, well they said that. I understand that, but like also who cares?
You understand it. That seems like who cares? That's almost I'm just like it's the same reason they're looking for the Holy Grail in Indiana Jones 3.
Oh, okay. Yes. Very good movie, by the way. I rewatched that.
Very good movie. Yes. One of my favorite movies. I just put it in my top 4 on Letterboxd.
Yes. That's good. So yeah, those were 2 movies I saw. 6 hours of my life that I spent last week.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's go to something you watched. Watch Flamin' Hot. Speaking of like IP stuff, I was trying to go through this week and look at like how many movies are coming out this year that are based on like IP, previously known IP. This one and the what was the bear one? Not the cocaine bear, but the what were the little doll thingies that were crazed in the 90s?
Trolls?
No, the little
Beanie Babies?
Yes, they're making a Beanie Babies.
Are they making a Beanie Babies movie?
Yeah, I think what's her name is in Elizabeth Banks is also in that. I think she might be directing that as well.
And it's coming out this year? Because there have been a lot of I call them product biopics.
Yeah, Air was one.
Air.
Yep.
Tetris, Blackberry,
yep.
And Flamin' Hot, and then it'll all come to an explosive conclusion with the ultimate product biopic in Oppenheimer. The product, of course, being the atom bomb.
Yes, exactly. Not Barbie. No. The Beanie.
That's not a product biopic. That's a story about. They're not telling you the story of how they made Barbies.
Sure, true. So it's The Beanie Bubble is an upcoming American comedy drama directed by Kristen Gore and Damian Kalush, based on the 2015 book The Great Beanie Baby Bubble: Mass Delusion and the Dark Side of Cute. Stars Zach Galifianakis, Elizabeth Banks, Sarah Snook, and Geraldine Viswanathan. All right, so that should be interesting. Okay. Yeah.
All right, well, I'll have to check this. Is it coming out the same day as Oppenheimer, July 21st?
It is.
Oh, man. I'm going to have to do a triple feature on that day.
It's scheduled to release in theaters, so they're doing that thing where they can be nominated for awards because they can be in theaters, because they're coming to theaters on July 21st, premiering on Apple TV Plus a week later on July 28th. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Gotcha.
All right. So speaking of product placement, what'd you think of Flamin' Hot?
It was pretty solid. Of all these product biopics, I thought it was probably the least interesting one, and that's not necessarily because it's based on a bunch of lies allegedly that Richard Montanez made up pretty much all of it, and he wasn't a janitor at the time, and he probably didn't invent the Flaming Hot Cheeto, but I thought it was fine. Well acted, well directed. It's just kind of whatever. Yeah. There's way too much voiceover. There's a lot of voiceover that I'm just like, when you're watching a movie and you're like, yeah, I get it. Like, you don't need to explain it to me. There's a reason that they took out all that Ridley Scott did not want all the voiceover in Blade Runner, and it felt like, it just felt like it did not think its audience was smart enough to understand a lot of things.
Yeah. That's cool. Is it still around? Like, I don't know if I've seen a Flamin' Hot Cheeto in stores.
Yeah, I went in, they're all over the place. I went and bought some when I watched the movie. I celebrated. I was like, all right, I got to do this upright.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. All right. One of those that I texted you the other day. I'm going to practice some self-care and not watch just okay movies anymore. If I was being paid to, yeah, I would obviously watch them all, but I'm not being paid to, so I won't. So there.
You said that about Extraction 2. You didn't say that about Flamin' Hot.
Sure. Yes. I mean, they're both in that camp in my mind. I understand Extraction 2 is probably a lot better, but yeah. Anyways, let's see. Secret Invasion, something we watched. Secret Invasion is the big MCU or TV show that was I was looking forward to a lot. I believe it was pretty high on my list of nerdy things I was looking forward to this year. So obviously Samuel L. Jackson is in this. This is created by Kyle Bradstreet, directed by Ali Salim, stars Ben Mendelsohn, Kingsley Benadir, Killian Scott, Dermot Mulroney, Richard Dormer, Emilia Clarke, Olivia Colman, and Don Cheadle. Derek, what you think of this?
I thought it was an interesting start to the show.
Yeah.
Nothing's really happened yet. So I guess I've just been rewatching a lot of the Mission Impossible movies. So it gave me definitely the Mission Impossible vibes, instead of it's like all about spies and espionage and wearing someone else's face and pretending to be other people and stuff like that. So, I kind of dug it. I think that it's giving Nick Fury we're seeing a side to him that we haven't really seen before, a little more vulnerable side, which is really interesting. So yeah, I dug it, but it's not a lot. It's just the one episode. Usually a lot of times these shows will start with like a 3-episode block to get you the kind of feel of it. And this is just the one episode this time. So, hard to say, reserving judgment and, till I see the whole thing.
Yeah. Like you said, slow start. A lot of the shows we come on here every week when they first start and like, wow, what was it? Miss Marvel, really good. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, looks promising. WandaVision looks promising, and then this is the inverse of like, oh boy, what's this? a lot of setup, a lot of what's the word I can never think of? Exposition, a lot of new characters being brought in. So yeah, I wonder if this is going to be the inverse finally of all the Marvel shows where they start off really strong and then sort of peter out at the end. I'm wondering if this is going to be a slower start and then it'll ramp up to a good crescendo at the end. That'll be interesting if that happens. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, we are going to be talking about it on my podcast, Infinity Stones Dragon Boat. Yes. So, looking forward to that. But do you think that Maria Hill is actually dead?
Honestly, I don't care. I don't care.
Wow.
Not a very important character. We shouldn't give it a lot of screen time. Wasn't given a lot to do in the movies. I'm not somebody. They're talking about this on Midnight Boys Pew Pew about one of them has watched the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which she was obviously a big part of, and he was like, yeah, man, I love Maria Hill, she's fucking awesome in that show, and everyone was like, okay,
she was
great.
She was not even on it.
Was she?
What are you talking about?
She had to have been on. She
might have had like some cameos.
I've never seen the show, but she was a big part of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I cannot imagine they wouldn't have had her.
She was no, because it was about Coulson's team.
Okay.
She showed up occasionally, but like there was seasons that she wasn't even on. I don't think she would show up like they'd be like, every once in a while that show would be like, we need someone, who can we get? Oh, let's get Hill. Nick Fury showed up in an episode, Sif showed up in an episode, but she wasn't like a main, like she wasn't even a recurring character. She was an occasional guest star, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think she's dead, but again, like, what does she even do? What does she do that
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
She's the one person Nick Fury could trust.
Yeah, I guess.
Except for, I guess, maybe Talos. So.
Yeah.
She's his Ving Rhames,
Because. Yeah, sure. The opening intro of this, I watched it and I was like, that looks weird. That looks not well put together.
Me so angry.
It doesn't look very good. And then like a couple of days later, they announced they didn't have to do this. They were like, "Hey, just so everybody knows, that was part AI," and it was like, "Boo!"
Yeah,
you didn't have to say anything. You could have just left it as like it looks kind of weird. You didn't have to specify.
It would have come out at some point. It would have come out. They just wanted to get ahead of it.
Fucking. Oh, I have a lot to say about AI. I don't want to get like into a thing right now, but it's just like, to me, a lot of it's just like fucking what's that game, Mad Libs, we used to play? You would put like, your own words in there, and it's like, it's like a Wes Anderson movie, but a horror. Like, what if Alfred Hitchcock was directed by like whoever? It's just
oh my god, I fucking hate those things. Like, what if it was Wes Anderson's Star Wars? I'm just like, fuck this. I hate this so fucking much.
But it doesn't. It's not like it's taking the place of anything. Like you watch a Wes Anderson movie to watch a Wes Anderson movie. This is just a game. It's just a what do you call it? It's just a thing you're using.
It is taking the place of something. It's taking the place of artists being able to make the TV show intro.
What? Oh, okay. Let me ask you this: does it take the place of like those shitty SNL parodies of like the what was his name? Not trash can guy. Who's the guy in the trash can that lives in the Sesame Street?
Oscar the Grouch?
Yeah, they made an Oscar the Grouch parody, but like they made it look like Joker, because it came out around the same time as Joker coming out. So they made like a darker, gritty version of Oscar the Grouch with David Harbour. It was very good. It was well done, but like if you're saying AI is going to replace that, then okay, great. That's not
AI is okay. It's replacing a lot of things, including, like we just said, the people who would have, the humans who would have created this theme song. And if you want to talk about, the shitty Wes Anderson things, Patrick Willems, who is one of my favorite podcasters / video essayists / movie critics, got his start by making, like, what if Wes Anderson directed the Batman, like, or it was what if Wes Anderson directed the X-Men, and like all these kind of like joke movies and stuff like that. And they're actually really funny and well done, and not just like creepy Uncanny Valley things. And he got his start by doing those, and those are still great. So yeah, it is taking up space that actual creators and like interesting, funny people would do, and it's just because it's just cribbing and stealing like the art style and the writing style, because that's all it does, is it imitates other things. It's not creative. It doesn't have that ability. It just is able to take bits and pieces of things. You tell it, do this, blah, 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 and then it just fucking creates something.
I don't know. Yeah. It's also like getting mad at like the printing press or like the cotton gin of being like, you're taking away jobs.
No, it's not at all. It's not at all. No, it's not at all. No, it's not.
Why not?
Because it's not the printing. Because the printing press didn't write the fucking paper, Damian. The printing press was a tool, and if you use AI as a tool like that, which I do as a writer, I'm like, hey, that's me typing, just so you know. I'm like, hey, can you spell check this, or can you check this for grammatical errors or inconsistencies? That is fine. If someone's like, no, my editors still have jobs, but it's less. But it looks better on me when I still have to correct my own stuff before I send it to them.
Right.
Anyway. Right. That's part of my job, is to send them something that looks professional and is well done and is supposed to be in grammatical order and be correct. And when I send it to them, if it's cleaner and better, that is a good thing. That is less things for them to have to correct. That's looks good on me. So when I'm doing that, that's good. But if one day they're just like, guess what? Don't worry, there's no more need for anyone to write at Watch Mojo, because it's all going to be AI generated shit. We're just going to plug things into a thing and be like, hey, tell me the top 10 sword fights in a movie of all time in the style of Watch Mojo, and it spits something out. Fuck that. And that's not happening, clearly. At least not, with places that I work, but it's something that I see is cropping up on the horizon and could be replacing a lot of writing jobs and a lot of things like that. And as we've seen already, as we're talking about with this show, it replaced the artist jobs with this opening sequence.
Yeah, true. But also, we also need universal basic income, because this whole discussion is only happening because of that. Like, we are taking jobs away from people that would normally do them, but also it's more of a problem, or it's more of a what do you call it? It's more of an intense issue, because of if you take away somebody's job, they don't have anything to fall back on, because we hate poor people in this country. So that's why.
Okay, I disagree with that also, because you're saying that the only reason
not only. I didn't say only. I didn't say only.
Okay.
One of the reasons.
Or the reason you're saying here that this is a problem is because it is taking away people's incomes.
Yes.
But that is assuming that is the only benefit to having people work on these over AIs. So right now, you and I, for example, so if all podcasts just became on, we're not getting paid to do this podcast, right?
Right.
So if an AI took away, like AI podcasts became huge and pushed us out of the market, that has nothing to do with the universal basic income. So what I'm saying is, people don't just create. If we had universal basic income and everybody was able to make money and AI wasn't threatening that, I would still rather see a theme song or a podcast or an article that is created by a human than one that is made by an AI.
Yeah, I mean that's how I feel about that too. I would like to see people make things themselves by hand as well. But just like with people buying the cheapest shit they can possibly find and it being poor quality, they're going to do that. Consumers are going to buy the cheapest thing. Companies are going to make their product the cheapest way they can possibly make it. And that's also the issue, is like we're just yelling at like, I also see it in the similar way of like us we're not addressing the root issue, and we're just saying like, oh, well, AI is the bad thing, or like immigrants are the bad thing because they're taking our jobs. No, they're not. Greedy corporations are choosing.
It's that you don't draw a false dichotomy between AI and immigrants. That is not the same at all.
Thing they can do. Companies will pay the cheapest they can possibly pay, right? And if they're going to pay zero, they're going to pay zero.
The people who are complaining about immigrants, they're going to take our jobs. They're not the same people who are complaining about AI.
What I'm saying is a similar thing, because companies are choosing to pay the cheapest they could possibly pay, right? And if they're going to pay zero,
we're agreeing that's a bad thing. Yeah, right?
I am saying it's a bad thing, but
so then what are you arguing for on AI then?
That it's going to happen. Listen, we're talking about a thing that's going to happen. It's going to roll over everything. And instead of saying, no, stop this, we need to address the root issue. And the root issue is that if you want people to pursue creative ventures, then you need to make it feasibly possible for them to do that. And if they can't get paid for doing a creative venture, then you need to pay them a universal basic income so they can pursue those creative interests without the fear of going bankrupt and going homeless. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. I agree with that. But also, unlike immigrant labor, which is often better than a lot of other labor, AI fucking sucks, and it looks bad, and it's gross.
So for now it does. It's gotten, if you look at Midjourney last year, even from last year till now, it's gotten 1,000 times better. So it's going. You're saying it sucks now, like just in quality, or just in terms of the process
Both.
Itself? Right, but it's getting
Both.
better. I don't know if you've seen what Midjourney is doing right now, but it's 1,000 times better than it was last year. So if you're just saying like,
yeah, it's getting better at stealing.
Okay, but good artists steal as well. Like you can't just say that the Wes Anderson is completely original, because he's not. He's taking things from other artists that have come before. Quentin Tarantino has talked about this. All the great artists that are working right now.
Quentin Tarantino's he steals shit all the time. That's not a good example. If you want to use Quentin Tarantino, he straight up just steals scenes and stuff like that.
Sure, but if you go back and look at the influences that artists use right now, nobody is completely original. I think originality is way overrated. It really is, because you look at how many musical artists just take samples and how many. It's not. If you're saying you want AI to be original and it's shitty because it's not original, then you have to say most artists are shitty because they're not original. But anyways, yeah.
Okay,
we can move on.
We're getting the whole thing, I just fundamentally disagree with everything you're saying.
Okay, that's fine.
Not everything, but a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah, that's fine.
And fuck AI.
Let's see, where were we? We're talking about Secret Invasion. So yeah, we both saw Asteroid City, right? We saw a thing. Wes Anderson's newest film. I don't think we've talked about this on mics at all, because I think 2021. When French Dispatch came out, I don't think we were doing the pod. That was the great 2021. Late 2021 was the great ghosting of 2021 by me to you.
Right.
So what is your overall thought on Wes Anderson, his movies, and as a director?
I generally really like Wes Anderson. I'm a big fan of a lot of his movies. I don't think I've ever disliked anything that he's made. French Dispatch was maybe my least favorite of his. I thought French Dispatch was just fine. But, you know, some of his movies, Grand Budapest, Royal Tenenbaums, Moonrise, I think are certified classics. And I really like Wes Anderson overall quite a bit. He does feel, you know, you may disagree with this, but I think he is very, very distinct and his films are incredibly original. Nothing else. You can look at a Wes Anderson thing and be like, this is clearly Wes Anderson, and he's leaned into it in the same way that, like, Cake, the band, has their aesthetic, and they run with it. So does Anderson, and he's kind of leaned into it more and more as he's gone along. The artifice of filmmaking, just kind of being like, we know that you're watching a movie, we're drawing your attention to that, and here's some layers. So you're watching a movie that is a play that's on TV, and, you know, and then sometimes there'll be somebody else reading a book. And I thought this did that really well. Just kind of was like, yeah, we're not gonna try and so many things are like trying to be hyper real. So many movies are trying to trick you that it's real, where it's like, this is really not trying to hide that at all. It's so it doesn't slip into the uncanny valley at all, because it's on the opposite side that most of the films are when it comes to that valley. And it is like, yeah, this is a movie, you're on a set, these are actors playing actors within a thing, in the same way that Joan is Awful did, which I really liked both of those things. And yeah, I think this is one of his best movies in quite a long time. I saw on Twitter somebody compared it to Nope, where they're like, these Universal movies that have come out in back-to-back summers that are made by auteur filmmakers about an alien visiting this, and and how that is a commentary on the nature of filmmaking and how we capture things and stuff like that. So I was a huge fan of Asteroid City.
Yeah, me as well. I've seen, you know, all of his movies multiple times. I think I texted you that I haven't revisited Darjeeling Limited, and I forget what the other one was, but yeah, I've seen most of his movies multiple times. They were very formative when I was growing up, because I think Rushmore came out in 98 when I was like 12 or 13, and Royal Tenenbaums came out a couple of years later. So I've been a big fan of his for a long time. And Asteroid City is probably one of my favorites of his. I would probably put this in the top third of his movies. Really interesting to see people like Tom Hanks, you know, try to fit into his mold, into his, you know, shooting style and acting style and all that kind of stuff. What did you think of him? I'm interested to know. What do you think of Tom Hanks joining his sort of troupe of actors?
I thought Tom Hanks was great. I think Tom Hanks is one of the all-time. He's not one of. First of all, he's one of the all-time great actors, but I think people forget that he's one of the all-time great comedic actors. Yeah. Which he got started as a comedian. And he doesn't really do that much comedy anymore now. Yeah. But now that he feels like he is the older statesman, it was nice to see him in this older comedic curmudgeonly grandpa role. I thought he was really good in this, and this is obviously a true ensemble, so it was cool to see him as part of that. I was curious at first because I was like, oh, so this is clearly a part that was written for Bill Murray. Since Bill Murray has been canceled. Yeah. This is the first Wes Anderson movie that he wasn't in. Apparently, though, it was actually the Steve Carell role that was written for Murray. Gotcha. Carell actually did a much better job than Murray would have done. Yeah. They came up with things because they're like, oh yeah, he had COVID. I'm like, okay, sure, that's why Bill Murray was in the movie. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But we all know why Bill Murray was in the movie. Right. But yeah.
Yeah, he did seem to fit in quite well. I wasn't sure because he's one of these guys like that, like Gene Hackman in Royal Tenenbaums, that sort of has his mannerisms and his way of carrying himself, I think, sort of shines through more so than other actors. I think if you go back and watch Royal Tenenbaums, which I still think is his masterpiece, I think is definitely evidence that Gene Hackman, there's been stories about how that was made and how Gene Hackman wasn't really jiving with Wes Anderson's directing style. But I think, Tom Hanks has that personality and that sort of vibrantness to him that sort of shines through the dialogue and the delivery of the dialogue, but it still fit really well in the movie. The main two people in this are Jason Schwartzman and Scarlett Johansson. I believe Scarlett Johansson was in Isle of Dogs. I think that was her only other Wes Anderson part, right?
I guess that's true. Yeah, she seems like somebody who's been in Anderson. Like, she has that vibe, but I guess you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, she was very good in this as well, just playing this like 1950s starlet type role. So yeah, a lot of his works has been based on family trauma. Has this melancholic malaise undertones to it. You have, Luke Wilson's Richie, where he attempts suicide in Royal Tenenbaums. The Life Aquatic is about Steve Zissou, whose friend and diver is devoured by a tiger shark. And a lot of the movies are about trying to find meaning in those experiences. I think, his parents divorced when he was a kid, and I think that sort of trying to look for understanding in the world has been a major theme running throughout a lot of his movies, and it definitely is here too. But I think I think he's tried to find some sort of resolution here. Near the end of the movie, won't spoil too much of it, but there is this conversation that Jason Schwartzman's character has with I'm trying to find his name here, Adrian Brody. Adrian Brody plays the director of the play that Asteroid City is the play of it. So Jason Schwartzman at one point talks to Adrian Brody and says, I don't get what's going on. What is all this stuff? I don't understand the play. And Adrian Brody says something like, that's fine. It doesn't matter. You don't understand it. Just say the lines, do the thing, tell your story, and the rest will kind of follow. He didn't say the last part, but that's what I took from it. I was wondering if that line and that discussion sort of summed up the thesis of the movie for you.
Yeah, no, that really, I felt like it clicked. It's kind of about Wes Anderson movies are always kind of vibe movies, and there's a lot of times when you're just like, what was that thing? And I think too often you'll see like a Loop article or something, and it'll be like explaining why Adrian Brody why he put his hand on the mallet, and I'm just like, I really don't like that. And I think that was maybe kind of lashing out at that, just kind of like examining film under a microscope in a way that it's not really meant to be. Sure. And some things are supposed to be ambiguous and just make you feel a certain way. Yeah. You're supposed to maybe understand it more emotionally than logically.
Right.
So yeah.
What did you think of the going back to sort of the part of the movie where it sort of breaks down the facade of it, where Jason Schwartzman is talking to Margot Robbie, who was going to play his wife in the play Asteroid City, but I guess got changed at the last minute. He's talking to her, and they have this discussion, which I wish I wrote down a lot more of what they said, because I feel like that is also sort of pulling back the curtain, literally and figuratively, about what the movie is really about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I really dug that scene. It felt like it was really kind of hitting on a lot of the issues that the movie was dealing with grief and stuff like that, and in a way where it's a clever way for the character to be able to the character that he's playing in the play, in a way, to interact with his dead wife and to kind of come to grips with that grief in a way that is not a literal thing. Once again, it makes more emotional sense than it does logical sense.
Yep.
And Margot Robbie's so good in it that it really hits. So yeah, I think that really just these themes of trying to move on and dealing with grief, and this whole movie is about grief and how everyone is so closed off and emotionless at sometimes, and that's so that when you're bottling everything up, sometimes it comes out by putting your hand on a grill or something like that.
Yes.
So I thought it really put a bow on the whole meaning of the movie for me.
Yeah, and then just real quick, just want to mention it's very funny, and I think one of his funniest movies. The scene at the beginning with not Liev Schreiber, Matt Dillon played the mechanic. That scene was very, very funny. Did you see a correlation or a parallel to when Matt Dillon's putting that piece on the car, and he's like, this piece will either Either fix your car or it'll make it blow up. Let's see what happens. And he puts the piece on, and it's got these like two prongs coming out the side of it, and then the prongs of that part look like the prongs of the ladder that the alien came down in the ship on. Did you feel like there was a connection there, or not really?
I did not even pick up on that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'd have to go look at them both again side by side to see.
Yeah. That's probably just my thing. Just picking up little things like that. So yeah, very good movie. Give that like a 4.5 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. Really, really good. Let's see. Got a lot more to do, so I'll try to go through some of this as quickly as possible. Watch Industry for the first time. Industry is one of the big HBO shows that debuted in 2020. Stars, like I said, Mahalia Harold as Harper Stern. She's a intern at Pierpoint, which is the fake like financial institution bank in the UK. It also stars, trying to find his name. They always do this where they put the name of like the main people like really, really far down. Ken Leung, you might know him from, they say
The Hangover.
Hangover. No, I was thinking of Ken Jeong.
Oh, Ken Leung from Lost.
Yes, right? I believe so.
Yes.
Is he? Let me see. Filmography, television. Yeah. He played Miles in Lost. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's so snarky. It's great. He's a snarky psychic.
He is, and he's very snarky in this one. He's very much like a younger version of like Logan Roy, which I don't know if you've watched, how many episodes of Succession you've watched, but he's very much that.
One
so far. Okay. So save that for next time. Really, really good version of like Succession, but in like a financial institution. I started the second season, and the second season starts like mid-COVID, and this is one of the very few pieces of media I've watched since COVID that directly comments on it. A lot of the people that are working there are working from home. A lot of people are wearing like masks and gloves and stuff like that. This is one of the biggest, I don't say drop-offs, but definitely a very, very different tone and feeling from season 1 to season 2, not just because of the COVID stuff, but also season 1 had amazing supporting cast other than Mahalia Harold and Ken Leung. They had people, I've never really seen them before, but they fit very, very well in this show. Priyanka Burford, Daniel Johnson, Harry Luty, a lot of people I've never heard of, but are very good in the show. Some of them either didn't get the job at the end of the first season, or moved or something, and they had to replace them. And the people they replaced them with are some of the least charismatic people I've ever seen on anything. They do not fit into the show at all. A lot of the show is, it's technical jargon, it's financial jargon, and Mahalia Harold and Ken Leung are very, very good at saying that jargon. I remember seeing an interview with Chris Pine talking recently about his career, and talking about how in the first Star Trek he was talking to JJ and he's saying like, I don't know what the hell are Romulans and this stuff? I don't understand the words. And JJ's just like, say it with conviction, and that's all the camera's going to pick up on. Just say it with conviction, say it with, confidence, and that's all that's really going to matter. It doesn't matter if you don't know what the words mean, just say them. And I feel like the people in the show are stumbling over the technical jargon of the show and can't really convey the emotional heft behind it. It's just everybody in the first season had this amazing charisma, and they were giving like fuck me eyes to people at the same time they're saying all this jargon. So it's really, really good, mixture of just some kind of bullshit backrooms, financial shit going on, but also people just doing drugs. This feels like I've never seen what's the HBO show with all the sex and Zendaya and all that stuff?
Game of Thrones?
No, Zendaya, the modern day.
Euphoria.
Euphoria. It feels like Euphoria levels of sex in the show, and drug dealing and drinking and all kinds of stuff. And they definitely toned that down in the second season.
I should watch it.
Yeah.
I shouldn't watch it.
They definitely toned that down. So it definitely feels like a hangover from the first season. So, but still recommend it. Very good show. And then quickly watched The Bear. Season 2 of The Bear is back, baby. They did a thing where they dropped the entire second season, which I think was a bad idea. It's always a bad idea to drop like 10 episodes of a show when it could be in the zeitgeist. It could be talked about for 2.5 months, but they decided to drop the whole second season. I'm about halfway through the season. I'm at like episode 6 or 7 out of 10 episodes. It's very, very good. Very, very, very good. Again, this is like Industry Season 1, where they have the entire cast has incredible chemistry together. They all play off each other. They all complement each other's weaknesses and strengths. And the writing is top points to that. This obviously stars Jeremy Allen White, Evan Moss Bacharach, Io Edebiri. She's very good in this. Very good supporting cast. I haven't watched Atlanta, but I feel like Atlanta season 2 or 3, from what I heard of it, has this similar sort of transformation where they send some characters off to like one of the characters in the show went to like Norway to learn how to be a pastry chef. So he's there doing that, and that whole part of his story, the part of this story, is shot differently, very much different music, very, very low key music, shot very differently. So definitely appreciate the sort of change of scenery and change of tone and change of pace of those scenes in those episodes. But yeah, one of those most stressful shows out there. Episode 6 was like showing where all these characters came from. They showed, what's his name? Shane from Walking Dead. He's in this, or he was in this.
I never watched it.
He's the guy that kills himself, and he's the one that Jeremy Allen White has to take over from. So they flash back to one of the last Thanksgivings they have together, and it's very, very chaotic and very toxic, and just an awful set of people in that episode. So you can definitely see where a lot of the toxic traits that Carmy has in this show come from. So cannot recommend the show enough. Very, very good show.
I'll have to check it out, along with a million other shows that I also have to watch.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. So let's talk about some other stuff you watched. Renfield, going back and forth. You watched Renfield. What'd you think of Renfield?
Renfield was pretty solid. It's streaming now on Peacock, I believe. And yeah, this is a movie I wanted to watch when it came out. I know it kind of got dragged by a lot of critics and stuff like that. And I get it. I think that the plot is kind of whatever, dog water. This there's it's kind of there's a lot of moments where just like there's like this cop story, and you're like, I'm doing this because my dad was a cop and I gotta get revenge, and you're like, okay, great. Like, I've seen this before. Awkwafina, who I tend to like, was wildly miscast. But it's still pretty fun. Nicholas Hoult is pretty great as Renfield. And then Nicolas Cage as Dracula.
Yeah.
Is Nicolas Cage as Dracula. Like, what else can you say? Like, he's absolutely incredible. Every single moment that Nick Cage is on screen is pure gold. So like it's definitely worth a watch. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, we talked about this when it came out, and you took off your headphones so I could talk about one of my favorite kills in this, which we can talk about now. But spoiler for Renfield if you haven't seen it. Near the end, what's the actor's name? He's in Parks and Rec. He played.
John Ralphio. I don't know the actor's name, but I call him John Ralphio.
His death in this, right? Tell me what you thought of that. Describe it for people.
Where he like gets all of the bones broken in his bodies, and he pukes out his guts and shits the rest of them out.
Yes, it's like a Mortal Kombat kill where you see his skeleton and you see his guts and bones and shit flying out of his mouth and shit flying out of his ass. It's just, what the fuck?
Yeah, he's also so good in this.
He's very good in this.
He's so funny, and then I don't know her name, but the actress who plays his mom, she's like a character actress. She's like shows up in Daredevil and stuff, and she's got that voice like, yes, we are the family, you see. And it's like she's fucking great. So honestly, it's a fun movie. You know, it's not like pure cinema or something, but I liked it.
Yes, exactly. Let's see, a couple more things I've watched. Let me just talk about the movie I saw yesterday, which I went down to Amherst Cinema. If anybody who knows about Amherst, one of the big colleges in the central Mass. They have a really nice theater cinema out there. So I went and saw Past Lives, which is a movie that's getting very, very high praise everywhere I hear about it. This is a directorial debut by Celine Song. She's a Korean-Canadian director, playwright, screenwriter. This is her first feature film, and she knocks out of the park. This is one of my favorite movies I've seen this year. This stars Greta Lee, TOU, and John Magaro. You know John Magaro because you mentioned you watched First Cow a couple of years ago. He was one of the main.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he was one of the main guys in that. So this is like a what if story, not a Marvel what if, but what would happen if certain things went a different way. Greta Lee plays a woman who, when she's 12, moves to the U.S. And unlike a lot of immigrant stories, this isn't about her life here. It's about the life she left behind when she left Korea. It's about TOU's character, who is sort of pining after her and looks her up on Facebook at that time. This takes place in 2000 when they're kids, 2012 when they're a little bit older in their 20s, and then currently when they're in their mid to late 30s. And it sort of cuts back and forth between them in the 20s and them in the 30s, and it's just a very interesting look at that thing of what might have been if they stayed. And there's nothing, not to spoil any of it, but it doesn't go down the road you think it might go down, of him pining after her and her trying to decide between the guy she's with and the guy that's pursuing her. It's much more nuanced and thoughtful about that sort of relationship and that sort of story. It gets into the story of In-yeon. It's a Korean idea, or maybe just I'm not sure, some sort of idea where it's let me see if I can get the actual quote here. She goes, at her writing retreat, Nora meets Arthur and describes the Korean concept of inyon, where if you meet someone, even briefly, it means you also met them in a past life. And lovers are people who have met over and over and over again in their past lives. So very much gets into that sort of soulmate sort of thing. But also, what if your soulmate didn't pursue you? Or what if you had a feeling that there might be something there, but you both didn't pursue it? So it's just a very... it's not a similar romance thing of is she choosing between the two, because they both never tried to they both never tried to have a relationship work. They just went on with their lives, and she was more ambitious than he was, and he's sort of opining about that, and just one of the great endings of a movie I've seen all year. So really, really can't give high enough recommendation to Past Lives. Hopefully it'll be coming out on VOD pretty soon.
Yes, yeah, I'm going to try and catch it in theaters this week if I can. Yeah,
definitely should. So I think that's about everything. I think I'll talk about my book later next week when we have more time. But let's get to the top 5 this week. Top 5 characters that formed us. They did this on Film Spotting this week. So I was like, oh, this is something that I really want to talk about because that we haven't done before. So I'll just start off just saying the... Wes Anderson movies. We talked about Asteroid City. Those are a big, like I said, big influence on me. I was kind of an emo when I was a kid, 14 or 15. I had dyed black hair. Didn't do the mascara thing, but definitely wore a lot of black, wore a lot of things on my wrists, and just a weirdo, just a weird kid in general, and definitely influenced by Wes Anderson movies to be snarky, nihilistic, cynicism, cynic, very cynic about the world, just blah, both parties the same, blah, nobody cares about me, blah, sort of thing. So that was a big influence on me as a kid. But my number 5 has to be 1994 Jim Carrey. I didn't pick one role or one person or one character. I just 94 Jim Carrey, because that was the perfect age for The Mask and Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber. I was quoting those movies constantly when I was 8 or 9 and 10. Those movies fucking owned my brain when I was a kid. So there's that. Actually, before we continue, let me just take a quick break so I can take a piss, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Derek, give me your number 5 character that shaped you.
So you made a connection to Asteroid City. So this one also connects to Asteroid City. So my number 5 is Woody from Toy Story. I was a very big fan of the Toy Story. The first Toy Story came out when I was 5. It was really big in my life.
Well, the second one came out when I was 9, and getting a bit older. And the third one then came out as Andy was going to college, as I was in college, and Woody being this character, I grew up with him in the same way that Andy did. I was related a lot more to him than Buzz. Really, any of the toys except for probably Jesse, I related to Woody a lot. He's kind of a snarky guy, like I am, and kind of, has to put his selfish tendencies in check sometimes. So I can maybe relate to that a little bit.
Yep.
But he's a good-hearted guy. He's a rootin' tootin' cowboy, and he really, really does care deeply about his friends, about Andy, and about being there for the people that he loves. And he's also a funny cowboy voiced by Tom Hanks. So as a kid, what wasn't to love about Woody?
Yes. I was a little older than you. So 95, the first Toy Story comes out. So what am I, like 9 or 10? So that would have worked on me still. Toy Story 2, 99, I would have been going into high school then. So, Toy Story 3 was a little bit old for that one, but yeah, I could definitely see imagining having those movies sort of track along your childhood. Definitely means a lot. So yeah, good pick there. Let me see. Number 4, Kevin McAllister again, being an 8 or 9-year-old in the early 90s, all of that stuff was definitely right up my alley. Always wanted to be Kevin McAllister. I was trying to set up like traps in my own house and like trying to get my mom and dad to trip over stuff, and they were not happy about that. But yeah, I just definitely related to Kevin being an only child. I don't know if he's the only child. Did he have sisters? Because I think a lot of those people in that movie were just like cousins, right?
It's been a long time since I've seen it. I have no idea.
I think he might have had a brother and sister, but yeah, just being that kid that's always like, left behind and by himself. I was really obsessed with like ordering pizzas with extra cheese on them. I watched that movie over and over again. I think this one and like Independence Day, Men in Black, like I said, The Mask, a lot of Jim Carrey movies, and this one was definitely one that was in heavy rotation when I was a kid. So definitely related to a lot to that kid back then. Yeah.
Right. Latchkey Kid,
exactly. What is your number 4?
My number 4 is also something from when I was a kid. It's a movie that I used to rewatch over and over and over again, and I used to quote this character all the time. And I'd always say, "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die."
Oh, okay.
And I love Princess Bride. Everybody is so great, but Inigo he's so cool. Like Manny Patinkin's so great. He's motivated. He's out there, seeking revenge for his father. He's looking for the six-fingered man, and he's like that sword fight. It's one of the all-time great cinematic sword fights. He's a swarthy guy. He didn't have the love story, and then he has that great climactic ending where he is through sheer force of will able to, on the brink of death, like power himself back up and achieve his life goal of getting the six-fingered man. And then I just kind of loved this little ending where he's like, I don't know, I've been in the revenge business so long, I don't know what to do. And he's like, have you considered being a dread pirate, Robert? Should we make a great pirate? And he's like, oh. So yeah, Inigo's so great. Manny Patinkin just iconic in that role. All his interactions with Fezzik, and he really does, once again, and something that's a recurring theme for me clearly is he cares a lot about his friends, about a Fezzik, and then eventually Wesley and Buttercup, and even Vicini. So yeah.
He is very cool. This is a movie and a group of movies that I didn't catch up with until very, very recently. A lot of 80s, a lot of 80s fantasy I wasn't either exposed to or wasn't really into. This one and stuff like Goonies, stuff like, let me see, Neverending Story, I think I watched a couple times. Dark Crystal, never watched. Willow, I never watched. Labyrinth, I caught up with just recently. A lot of 80s fantasy I wasn't really either exposed to, or I wasn't really seeking those things out. So yeah, I imagine if I saw this when I was like I said, 10 or 11, I probably would have, had this on my list now. But yeah, very good pick.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
How about you? What is yours?
My number three. Yes, my number three is SLC Punk. My top three, like I said, are going to be stuff that was very formative to me because I was, coming into like teenage years, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let me look up the actual year because I think SLC Punk was 98, I want to say.
What is the SLC Punk?
SLC Punk, yes. It is
What is that?
It's a 1998 American comedy drama written and directed by James Marandino. Don't know if he did anything else.
Literally haven't.
Yeah.
Apparently he did Punk's Dead, SLC Punk 2.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I don't want to. I don't want to tarnish the image of the first one. So SLC Punk is a movie from '98 about stars Matthew Lillard, Michael Gorgian, Annabelle Gish. One of my early crushes was Annabeth Gish in this movie because she plays a 30-year-old. Oh my God, she's so old. Early Jason Segel character in this. This was, again, first introduction to like punk. I was very much a like emo / punk kid back in the day, but the not Spencer's version, but like what was the Hot Topic? I was frequently Hot Topic a lot when I was like 13, 14, 15. So this was a huge influence in my aesthetics back then. It is a very, very good movie. I think, like you said, you haven't heard of it, so it's like one of those hidden gems. I would put it on, like you said, I would watch it for your podcast, Underrated, because I think it is one of the most underrated movies of the late 90s. It's just like, as the plot shows, it's just, two like teenagers, early 20s kids that are not sure what they want to do with their life. One of them wants to send them to Harvard Business School, so they're just kind of drinking, doing drugs in Utah. One of the big moments of the movie is when they have to go to like some neighboring state or some neighboring county because the beer that they sell in the county they're in is like 1% or something, so they have to like go somewhere else where they can actually get any beer because Salt Lake City is full of Mormons and all that.
SLC Punk. Now I'm getting it.
Yeah, Salt Lake City, exactly. Yes. Takes place in '85, so it's got a lot of Reagan references in this movie. Really one of the all-time great endings. Really one of the movies that I remember early making me cry based on the ending of this movie. So really can't recommend this movie enough. Fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, very good. What is your number three?
So my number three is from maybe the only movie that I've seen more times than Princess Bride, and that is Jurassic Park. And I picked Ellie Sattler, Laura Dern's character. She is a badass. She is a, there's a lot of great characters in Jurassic Park, but, I was like, even though, I was like a young boy, I still felt like I related the most to Dr. Sattler, she's like a badass, and she's trying to figure out what happened, and then she kind of gets swept up in the majesty of Jurassic Park, and then realizes that it's all been kind of a smokescreen, and she has that really incredible iconic speech that she gives to Dr. Hammond about halfway through the movie when they're just eating the melting ice cream, and he's spared no expense, and she's just talking about how the power is out and everything has gone to shit. So, really aspirational, great character, great fashion sense. I was even her for Halloween one year, so I had to go with Ellie Sattler.
You were her for Halloween? Did you wear like short shorts? You were short shorts?
Yeah, it was great. Oh my gosh. I'll send you the picture. It was incredible.
No, thank you.
Oh, that was great.
So this is why, TikTok is pretty accurate though. They think you're a lesbian. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. I like Jurassic Park as well. I probably watched that alongside things like Twister. I was not just a dinosaur kid. I was also a storm chaser kid. I wanted to be a storm chaser after I saw Twister. I was like, any like, we're in a place geographically where we don't get a lot of tornadoes, if any at all. We don't get like hurricanes or any sort of natural disasters. So I was always out when there was like a storm. I was like, ooh, is that a twister? Is that a funnel cloud? No, Damien, shut the fuck up. You stupid 12-year-old. Of course it's not. But yeah, really loved Jurassic Park as a kid. Probably watched that the most. One of the movies I watched the most as a kid. Yep, great pick. Okay, so my number 2 is a character you're not supposed to talk about because he's not real. So runs a cult that you're not supposed to talk about, which is Tyler Durden in Fight Club. One of the most influential characters for me growing up, again, alongside the sort of anti-establishment mentality that I sort of picked up on in SLC Punk that continued into Tyler Durden's sort of philosophy on life in Fight Club. One of the most iconic, memorable lines he has in this movie is he says, people are buying shit they don't need with money they don't have, or maybe it's the other way around. But yeah, just really drilled into my brain and just sat there for years and years about anti-consumerism, anti-establishmentarianism, all that stuff. And, did my friend and I start a Fight Club? Yeah, we kind of did. Did it stop as soon as one of us got a black eye? Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, just an incredible movie. I've talked about this multiple times before in like our David Fincher top 5s, but yeah, just the character of him. I think somebody did a video recently of like, how many people got him wrong, or how many people idolized him and put him on a pedestal, seeing him as this sort of masculine status symbol, when it was the reverse of like he's this great orator and he's this guy who is able to convince a lot of people to do a lot of shitty things, and that is a cult. That is what a cult leader does.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people.
Yeah, you have him on your list, unlike for not the same reasons that a lot of people would. I'll just say that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, just incredible. All the things he says, like you can buy shit you don't need with money you don't have. It's all going down. The Martha Stewart's shining the china on the Titanic. It's all going down, man. It's just very influential in like my adolescent nihilistic worldview at that time. I've sort of grown out of it a little bit. I have more of a not an optimistic view of the world, but definitely not as cynical as I was back then. But yeah, definitely one of the most influential movies and influential characters in my life.
Yeah, and I think that's good that you've grown out of it, because I think that's kind of the overall message of the movie is like, yeah, there's things that are wrong, but you don't need to be so cynical.
Yes, exactly. Yep. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is this is the one that's a little more recent than a lot of these are from when I was a kid. This one's from later in life, and that is Thor from the Avengers franchise. So I had a lot of trouble picking this list at first because I was thinking of characters that started in other mediums and then would eventually become movie characters, like when I was thinking of, do I want to put a superhero on here? The first thought was Spider-Man, but then I'm like, no, that's more of like his character in the comics or his character, especially in the 90s show that I was very into. And not to say that I disliked the Tobey movies, but like that wasn't my real inspiration for liking it, or like, characters from books. But Thor in the films, I really related to. Like, he is just the same thing. He really cares about the people he loves. He goes on this journey, and especially Thor, his arc in Endgame was one that really resonated with me. I rewatched that movie during the pandemic when I was like, feeling very, very down during lockdown. It was a rough time for everybody. I was also going through a really bad breakup, and just like, how when Thor has that moment in Endgame when he's depressed, I had gained a little weight too, so I related to that aspect. And then he goes and he grabs the hammer. He's able to summon it still, and he has that moment where he like is almost crying. And he says, "I'm still worthy." Like that really hit me. It's just like, wow, even at your lowest moments, you can still be worthy. So I love Thor. Chris Hemsworth is one of my absolute favorite performers. That's pretty much the whole reason why I even watched Extraction. So I have to give it to Thor for my number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to somebody for their podcast about, the MCU, why I like it so much, and talking about the big moments and during Endgame and talking about the portal scene. But then she was like, okay, is there, anything else other than like those big action set pieces? Is like, yeah, the Thor story, the Thor, sort of his overarching story sort of completes there. And a lot of those scenes where he's talking to his mother and his mother's like, he's telling her, you die today and I'm here to save you and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, no, I know you're from the future and this isn't my story. It's your story. And you need to go and finish it. And, this was a gift. You came here and we had this time and this is a gift. And now I need to complete my story and you can't stop what's going to happen to me. This is where my story ends, but your story keeps going. So yeah, very, very, I think the stuff we're missing a lot of stuff from the first 3 phases of the MCU, but that's a lot of the things we're missing of just like having a, not just overarching story for the whole series, but overarching and thematic and a conclusion to a lot of people's stories. I think that's something, hopefully they're building towards that again, but yeah, good pick. Very good pick.
Thank you.
Yep. So let's see. We'll do my number 1. Again, is from late 90s, early 2000s. Movie called Ghost World from 2001. Directed by Terry Zwigoff, starring Thora Birch, Scarlett Johansson, Brad Renfro, Ileana Douglas, and Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi is the character that I identified with very much. Again, talking about like a very cynical, very where's the word? Very snarky, a lot of nihilism to the world. He has a quote where he's like, I can't relate to 99% of humanity. And there's a scene where these people are crossing the road and he's in a car and he's like, move, have more kids. Why don't you? If you haven't ever seen this movie, I highly recommend it just for Seymour's lines. I'm trying to look up some of them, or Enid's and Seymour's lines. Let me see here if I can find one real quick. Oh, so Enid is talking to Seymour about trying to find someone for him to date. And she says, quote, we need to find a place where you can go and meet women who share your interests. And he says, maybe I don't want to meet someone who shares my interests. I hate my interests. Let's see. He's talking about collecting records, and he says, you think it's healthy to obsessively collect things? You can't relate to other people, so you fill your life with stuff. I'm just like all the others collector losers. Enid says, so I don't get it. Are you saying things were better then, even though there's stuff like this? And he's like, I suppose things are better now, but I don't know. People still hate each other. They just know how to hide it better. He had this, I don't know if it was real, based on a real poster or whatever, but it was a poster from a fried chicken chain that was, it had a promotional poster, and the fried chicken franchise was now, it would change its names to Cook's Chicken. Its old name was Coon Chicken Inn, which obviously is an incredibly racist caricature of black people back then. So yeah. Just she took this poster and brings it to our class, and she's like, well, it's a found thing. It's a found, I forget what she called it, a found art piece or something like that. And so they have this presentation in class talking about the racism of it, and they're like, well, it's not a what do you call it? It's not an artistically stimulating piece. It's just racist. And they're like, well, that's the point of it. That's why it's here. So I'm showing it to you. Let's see. So yeah, just a lot of great lines. Seymour is just somebody who's living alone, like collecting record, listening to them himself. He has this garage sale where he meets Enid at. But yeah, just one of those movies. I did the only sort of video essay I did was about this movie because I think it's really gets at like not just young cynicism, not just young nihilism, but it's also, you look at that movie now and it's like 20 years ago, how it's just a regular American town looked, and it looks very much the same to now, to a lot of American cities, American towns that are being shuttered because of mill closings and all that kind of stuff. So highly recommend watching Ghost World. One of the best.
Yeah, it's in my watch list, so who knows? Maybe it'll come up on roulette.
Yeah, we'll see that in a minute here. But what is your number 1 character that formed you?
I mean, my number 1 character, he's literally me. It's Ryan Gosling in Drive.
Yeah. Literally
no, I'm
me.
just kidding.
Literally
I'm just
me.
kidding. No. I almost was just gonna as a joke just do all top 5 as Ryan Gosling characters.
Yep.
Blade Runner.
Yep. Drive.
Drive.
Lars and the Real Girl.
Crazy Stupid Love. That's the one that nobody wants to be. Is Lars and the Real Girl.
You're right.
But no, my real number 1 is, of course, it's Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones. He's the fucking coolest guy in the entire history of cinema. Who doesn't want to be Indiana Jones? He's like James Bond, but a little less misogynistic. He's cooler. He's great with a whip.
Yeah.
He's young Harrison Ford is a fucking unicorn.
Oh, yeah.
I swear to God.
Yeah.
I don't think that anyone else, no offense to Tom Selleck, could play being both so tough and such a badass, but also like a kind of stuffy professor at the same. Not even stuffy, just oh, you believe this guy will teach you about archaeology, and then he's just gonna go rob some graves. And what else is there to say about Indiana Jones at this point? They're making another one now because the character is so iconic and so ingrained. No one else could ever be him. Just absolutely one of the all-time great cinema characters, and it's not even something that necessarily I feel my life has come from him so much, but I just wanted to be cool like Indy. Who didn't? I bought the hat. I think somebody gave me the whip one year for Christmas as a present.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just great. It's just great.
He is great, yeah. And there's really nobody now like him. I think they talk about this a lot on Rewatchables. They did Last Crusade recently, obviously leading up to the new one. And there's talking about how, there's imitators. There's people that are trying to do him now, but, I think the closest thing, there's a lot of action adventure movies now and action adventure people. Tom Holland doing Uncharted was probably the closest. They were the modern day version of that. But yeah, it's just nobody looks normal anymore. It's just the Harrison Ford was just he's a beautiful creature, but he's he's not jacked like Chris Hemsworth. He can't do.
Yeah, he was strong, but he's not he doesn't look like a movie guy strong. He looks like a real person.
Exactly. He doesn't look like Sylvester Stallone or Schwarzenegger in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Doesn't look like Chris Hemsworth now. Just look like a normal dude. So maybe we'll get back to that at some point. But I think we're too entrenched in this. Everybody's got to have washboard abs and pecs.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Keanu just looks like a guy. I think really we're starting to see and have over maybe the past since probably about the Matrix.
Yeah.
Just rather than the 80s where it's we're going to cast these guys who are look like big, huge strongmen. We're getting actors we're getting good actors to play. Like Bob Odenkirk was in a fucking action movie,
right. But he was jacked in that
and
too.
He did he did get kind of jacked in that too, to your point. But I think that he's it's more common for normal people to be in these roles than just kind of these physical specimens, I guess.
Yes. So yeah, that is our top 5 movie characters that have formed us.
We did it.
Yes.
I just said we did it.
We did it, yes. Yeah, next up is our letterbox assignments. I did actually watch my assignment. I watched a few of them. Yeah, I watched a few of them. I watched 400 Blows, which is fine. I'm not a French guy. I'm not a French New Wave guy, so I didn't really connect with it too much. Let me see. Let me go back to my letterbox because I know I had a couple of them. I started Afterlife this morning, but didn't finish it. Let me see. Go to my diary because I know there was another one that I went back and that I watched for it. 400 Blows was one of them. Brighter Summer Day, I think, was one, right? Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I'm going back and watching them. I don't think I'm gonna watch The Help. I think The Help is just one of those white savior Oscar bait movies. I'm no, I'm good not watching that.
Yeah, but you're fine to skip that one.
Yeah, I watched Broker. I'm trying to think of the movie that was very similar to this. It's Gone Baby Gone. You seen Gone Baby Gone?
Yeah, I have. I really like that movie.
So this is similar to that in that Gone Baby Gone is about a investigator who, spoiler for that movie, but he finds out that the child that was abducted from the mother was living with either the biological grandparents, or like the legal grandparents or something like that, right? And so the detective has to, weigh, it's like do this moral like searching of like, is he gonna go by the letter of the law and bring the kid back to its biological mother, even though the biological mother is kind of a piece of shit, and leave them with the grandparents that are treating the kid well and will probably be brought up in a better environment. But this is very much like that. The synopsis is Hung Sang-hun is the owner of a hand laundry and volunteers at a nearby church where his friend Dong Soon works. The two run an illegal business together. Sang-hung occasionally steals babies from the church's baby box with Dong Soon, who deletes the church's surveillance footage that shows the baby was left there. They sell the babies on the adoption black market, but when a young mother, So Hung, comes back after having her abandoned baby, she discovers them and decides to go with them on a road trip to interview the baby's potential parents. Meanwhile, two detectives are on their trail. So not quite that like morally ambiguous. It's kind of a shady thing to do, but the mother goes with them to try to find, suitable parents for the child. So it doesn't really get into like, abortion would solve this problem. Like legal abortion would solve that entire issue. So again, we're talking about like a societal issue that really shouldn't be a thing if we were just more progressive in our policies towards women's bodies. But really good movie. I highly recommend if you want to watch another movie with the guy from Parasite, and it's Song Kang-ho was very good in this, as the rest of the cast was. So yeah, my assignment completed finally. So your assignment last time was the Florida Project, Sean Baker's The Florida Project. What did you think of this?
So you saw my and snarkily commented on my Letterboxd review, which is
gotta have the snark in there. Yeah.
Like you've seen 30 Rock, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you knew what I was talking about, because I basically was like, this is essentially Tracy Jordan's Hard to Watch for white people, because anybody who hasn't seen 30 Rock, and then I put a clip of Tracy talking about his childhood and the difficulties faced with it. That was very funny underneath it. But yeah, did you watch that clip, by the way?
Yes, it's very funny.
Okay, it's basically the Florida Project, because the Florida Project and Tracy Jordan's or Hard to Watch are both like these different, like, it's called Hard to Watch as a joke of like, there's every year, a few years, there's this Oscar movie that comes out, and it's about people struggling economically, and it's like, this is a really tough to watch but very important movie, and it's just about how terrible these people's lives are, and it's suffering porn, and I get it. I get why people like this movie, but I did not enjoy it at all. Maybe because I'm biased against Orlando, because fuck Orlando. And if you live there, my condolences. I'm sorry. Run away from the gators that are on meth. Good luck. Also, but yeah, I liked Willem Dafoe a lot in this movie. The line that he says to the birds, "No harm, no foul." There's a joke in there somewhere. I was cracking up at, but. I don't know, man. This didn't do it for me. I just don't think I like Sean Baker. I really don't like his style.
Yeah, that's fine. I think this is one of the best performances by a child I've ever seen. Brooklyn Kimberly Prince was really, really great in this. I feel like she played that sort of character very, very well. Did you like her performance at least?
Yeah, all the acting in it was top notch. Great acting all the way around.
Yes, it was. I mean, it's one of those things that's very tough to watch because it's very true to life,
Yeah. I mean, I already know what it's like to live 10 minutes from a Disney park and to be broke. So, yeah. I mean, all right, cool. I mean, what's the Florida equivalent of Knott's Berry Farm? Just go there.
Right, exactly.
That's what we did when we were kids and we were too poor to go to Disneyland. We went to Knott's Berry Farm.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So whatever they got in Florida or Orlando, that's like a Knott's. I'm not sure if there is one, but
Right. Okay, that's fine. Still, I would still recommend watching his first movie, Sean Baker's first movie, Tangerine. Might
I'm probably not going to do that, but
okay, that's fine.
well, thank you for the suggestion.
Yes,
yes.
Taken and observed, but not
taken and observed. Measured and weighed.
Yes, exactly. All right, so let's do our letterbox assignments for this week. I want to sort by my services and sort by shuffle, and I will get Walker. Let's see, what is Walker? Walker is a Western directed by Alex Cox, starring...
Is it like a reboot of Texas Ranger or something?
No, it's from 1987. Stars Ed Harris, Richard Mazur, Renee Auberjonois, Peter Boyle's in this. Marlee Matlin is in this. Pedro Armendariz. Okay, that person's in here. Okay, cool. I guess I'll watch it. It's only a 94-minute Western starring Ed Harris. All right, I'll check that out. For next time, go to your letterbox, sort by your services, and then shuffle.
So sorted by my services, excluded short films, excluded TV shows.
Oh.
And so I'm not about to watch the Band of Brothers for this. All right. Ooh, okay. Ooh, excited for this one. Chloe, the drama with Amanda Seyfried, Julianne Moore, Liam Neeson, the kind of psychosexual drama. So
sexy drama.
Excited to see this one.
Yeah, sexual thriller. Nice.
Sexual thriller. Okay. Yeah. So
Liam Neeson. I'm Liam Neeson. I'm a Welsh playing an American. Here's my speaking voice.
So it's almost Connery right there.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so that's our assignments for next time. Let me see. Let me just plug them in real quick so I don't forget them. Let's see. Mine was Walker, and Chloe. Okay, doing plugging away my stuff. I'm doing more reviews than I was in the previous year or previous beginning of the year. Go to my letterbox B_4_Benedetta to check out all my reviews there. I posted I think I made a new list. What was my list most recently? Oh, best of 2023 so far in June was posted there, so check that out. It's always a fluid top 20, so be sure to check back often to see what's up there now. I'll probably put Past Lives number 1 or number 2, so that'll be going up there. And also check out from my reviews, just did a 2 or 3 4 page paragraph review of Asteroid City. I did that there, so check all that stuff out there. Go to my Medium blog. I always post my longer, more in-depth reviews there, so go to my Medium blog, damian-sherman.medium.com. Over there, go to podcast Spotify for podcasters to make a podcast easily, and check out all my interviews from the past year. Derek, what you got to plug?
I got to plug my other podcast that I do. We alluded to it earlier, Underrated, where we talk about underrated or underappreciated films. And this one, I think, is one that is very underappreciated, especially on the internet.
Yes.
And that in honor of Indy 5 coming out, we are covering Indiana Jones 4, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Okay.
So kind of had some fun delving into that one. I know that Indiana Jones is your nemesis. You're like Renee Belloc, and you hate him.
Yeah, I do.
I was surprised. I thought Belloc was going to be your number one. You're like, I love him because he's like Indiana Jones, but he's evil and he hates him. No. So I had a lot of fun talking about that. So if you want to hear my thoughts, me defending Indiana Jones 4, go listen to that.
Yes, go listen to that. I linked you a interview with Ellie Plum. Is that his name? Ellie Blum, something like that. The interviewer, very famous interviewer. He does a lot of YouTube videos, does a lot of interviews. He was interviewing Harrison Ford just recently for the Dial of Destiny, and he was talking to him about why does this character, why does this story endure through 4 decades since the first one, and he gave a very eloquent answer and got very emotional while talking about it. So check that out as well. Check out that interview with Ellie Plum. Is that his name? Eli Plum? Plum?
I that interview, it got me very emotional too when I watched that clip you sent me. So
yeah. Really good interview. But yeah, for Can I Say Something? I'm Damian.
And I've been Derek.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.